Hi, everyone. I'm Mara Webster with SAG-AFTRA Foundation, and thank you so much for tuning in to watch today's Conversations at Home video. Before we start, I want to continue reminding everyone watching these videos that the SAG-AFTRA Foundation is a nonprofit organization, and as such, we're continuing to raise funds for our COVID-19 Emergency Assistance Fund. This is working to support actors who are out of work with all of the film and television productions being closed at the moment, so please check out the details below this video and consider supporting if you're able to in any way at all. Today, we are talking all things the bold type and are joined by the wonderful Melora, Hardin, Katie Stevens, Aisha D, and Meghann Fahy. And I want to thank you so much for joining us today. And I know that, Aisha, you and Meghann were down at one of the protests happening yesterday, and just wanted to ask you about that experience and how everything's been with this.
Yeah, I mean, it was so beautiful. We found ourselves right at the front of it, and then went to walk back to, we were handing out water bottles at this like cute little venue on Hollywood, and we didn't have any idea how many people there were. I don't even know what the estimate is, but it was really beautiful. And like,
I think I heard something like 20,000, but that even seems
low.
It looked like
low because
more than that.
it was a really unique position for us to be in. My boyfriend owns a theater space on Hollywood Boulevard. And so we opened that up and we set up a table and we were handing out water. And so we actually got to see from beginning to end the entire sort of parade of people, and it was nonstop for like what felt like at least maybe an hour.
Oh, it was a long
nonstop, and you could look down the street and there was just no end in sight. I mean, it was really an incredible thing to see,
and so beautiful and peaceful. Everyone was playing instruments and dancing and like just like really like creating some space for joy too. It was
yeah.
I received many videos of because I was so sad that I'm across the country and wasn't with them. But I received many videos of Aisha playing drums and Meghann interpretive dancing that really filled my soul.
I took my daughters to a small protest and vigil about a week ago that was kind of near us locally, and it was so beautiful. It was so beautiful. It's really, really amazing what's going on right now.
Yeah, I have to say, I feel like it's really sort of rejuvenating to feel the energy and be around so many people who, you know, want what's right and good in a time where everything feels so crazy. It actually like sort of filled my gas tank up again and like renewed my faith in humanity in like a way that feels really like I woke up today feeling like so much brighter than I have in the past, several weeks. But
a wonderful way to put it, Meghann. And I feel like right now, and I will just like, I actually can compare this to the show, because I feel like right now we're all asking everybody to turn it on and turn it up. And I think that's really one of the things that I was always so attracted to about the Bold Type, is that it's women saying to each other, not just like you're good the way you are, but turn it up. And I think that Black people, I think that women, I think that all minorities really have sort of been faced with a lot of, just take it down a notch. And I just think it's so exciting that we're all kind of embracing each other and saying, no, let's turn it up. Because it's that wonderful, incredible speech that Marianne Williamson wrote about, we are here to shine our brightest light. That is our job. And if we can do that, then we don't even know what's possible, and we are not meant to judge. We are not meant to sit on it. We are not meant to, close it off. We are meant to turn it up. So I think that's a beautiful, beautiful thing, Meghann, that you're saying. And I think I think this is all happening for everybody. I think it's living within us, this exciting opportunity right now for change. It's really an exciting moment in history.
Yeah.
Completely agree with that. And I think that ties into the fact that the show from the get-go has been something which is about women navigating their lives personally, professionally, but it's always dealing with issues. I feel like almost every episode is really having a larger voice and a larger conversation, and not necessarily always looking for the answers, but raising a lot of conversations and a lot of questions. And I was curious if for each of you, if there's any particular storyline or character plot line that you're particularly proud of that you've had the opportunity to address either through your character or just through the show in general.
I mean,
we all have things to say about that. Go ahead, Katie, you go.
I mean, I feel like I've had a lot of wonderful stories pertaining to what's going on right now. I think it's really beautiful that in season 2 we had an episode where Kat and Jane discussed privilege, and were able to have that conversation with one another, and it wasn't combative, and it wasn't it was just really beautiful how it was two people being able to come together and have this discussion and really want to open their hearts and open their ears to one another, and especially Jane having to have the uncomfortable conversation with Kat and be able to learn so much from it. And then on the other side of it, you know, I have the privilege of telling the storyline about Jane and her health struggles, and moving through having the BRCA gene mutation and what that means for her moving towards her future. And, you know, our writers are so wonderful. They've done their research. They equally want it to feel authentic and true to what people's experience going through that are. And so we deal with that a lot in the upcoming season, and I'm really proud of it. So I'm excited for people to see it.
How about for you, Aisha?
Yeah, I mean, I was actually going to say the same thing as Katie. The episode on white privilege, I think, was really powerful, and also kind of daunting to approach that topic, because it's not really something that you can cover in 40 minutes. I don't think there are many things in life that you can just like completely unpack in 40 minutes, but I love one of them. Yeah, we got to start the conversation and hopefully encourage other people to have the same conversation in their life. I remember, like, at the time when the episode was airing, I got this tweet from this girl who said that she and her roommate had paused the episode so that they could have a conversation about their privilege. And that was just a really cool kind of concept to me, that someone would be watching a show and then pause it and say, like, oh, let's have the same conversation right now. But I also think that there's more work that we can do in terms of like covering the topic of privilege, because, you know, we all are dealing with a certain amount of privilege, whether it's like the fact that we are able-bodied or cisgender, or, you know, even in Kat's case, she comes from money, and that is her privilege. And we actually kind of get into that, you know, Kat kind of reckoning with her privilege for the first time in the last half of season 4, which is really exciting. And also we have further to go, even, you know, beyond what we did.
Is there anything particular for you, Meghann, that stood out through Sutton or the show for you that meant a lot?
I mean, there's a bunch of stuff in earlier seasons that I still love. Like, one of my favorite storylines, and it wasn't even one that we spent like a ton of time on, but just, you know, Sutton being in the business that she's in, there's a lot of hierarchy, and there's a lot of like deep rooted sort of like behavioral things, like, you know, if you're an assistant, you get treated a certain way and that kind of stuff. And so I think because Sutton's been an assistant for the whole show until this new season, you know, that's been a big part of what she's had to kind of navigate. And there was just one episode in, I think, season 2, where there was a girl who was saying a lot of bad things about her. And instead of Sutton doing the whole eye for an eye thing, she was like, hey, let's talk about this. Like, she confronted the girl and was like, let's not perpetuate this bad behavior. And I think we see her do that too. Like, now that she has her own assistant, she has an opportunity to treat her assistant differently, and she does. But this season, the back 6 episodes that are about to start airing. I'm really excited for people to see, because it's a very different side of Sutton. Her emotional journey is like very different than anything we've seen before. She's married now, and I think that what we'll watch is like she has a lot of conversations with Richard and her friends and stuff about her body and what she wants out of her life, and watching her sort of assert that and sort of fight for that and be honest with that and truthful with that, even though it's really difficult, is, I think, a really special story that I get to tell through Sutton. And I think it's going to be pretty exciting for people to see too, because it's just so different than anything we've seen her do before. So I think it's cool.
And how about for you?
Megann's incredible in the last half of this. She made me cry and laugh and do all the things, and you always do, but Megann's story is really, really beautiful.
Thanks, Aisha.
It is very powerful. It's true. For me, obviously I always harken back to what Jacqueline's always been carrying with her, and she continues to carry with her. We found out at the end of season 1 that she'd been raped in the workplace. This is particularly close to my heart because I've been making a documentary for 4 years now that's specifically related to that. I think that she's an extraordinary example of so many women. The statistic is now, since the Me Too movement, risen to 1 in 3, 1 in 5 children, 1 in 3 women. I think that it's an extraordinary thing that so many women are so resilient, and really the power of resilience, the power of love. And I think Jacqueline's a wonderful example of that. And I think in this particular season, you really get to see how she is grappling with her own marriage, which is a long-term marriage that's been very successful with 2 children, while balancing a career that she's incredibly passionate about. And to me, this is a really important element to remember, because her husband is her partner in all of this. He's her partner in healing this. He's also her partner in making her dreams come true, and they are making dreams come true together. I have a very wise friend who says fantasies have to die for dreams to come true, and I think that their fantasies are dying, and their dreams are really rooted and growing, and you're really watching them work for what they dream of. And that includes the fact that she was raped in the workplace many, many, many years before. Because what I think people forget, and what we have in our culture very much, is this idea that when a trauma happens, you need to get over it. And there's no such thing as getting over it. You can only get through it. And I think you really see this about her. And I think that what I love, again, I just speak to the show itself. The show seems to always be slightly kind of like right on the edge of what's going on. The episode that I directed this season, which is called Snow Day, it's the second episode you guys will see in the back 6, is a really interesting reflection of what everybody's doing right now in the world, because everybody gets trapped. Everyone has to close down, and kind of deal. They have to deal with people they're uncomfortable with. They have to deal with people they're comfortable with. They have to be separated from the people they'd actually prefer to be with. They have to be working in an environment that's uncomfortable and different than what they're used to. And I think, that's kind of what the world is going through. And I think some really incredible things happen because of that slowdown for all the characters. And I really, really love that. And I just love that about the show. I love that the show is just right on the curve of sort of like the wave. It's like riding the wave, sometimes actually ahead of the wave of kind of what is happening on the pulse of society. And I feel like it's very, very exciting that is an exciting thing about the show. And to me, yes, our writers are incredible. They definitely have their finger on the pulse, but there's also some incredible, like, serendipitous things, I think, that are happening to help the show kind of remain very relevant.
Mm-hmm. And Katie, I wanted to ask you, you touched upon this a little bit before, but specifically about Jane's journey with the BRCA gene, because what we're seeing now in the season is her coming off the back of having had a double mastectomy and what that really means, and having to almost reestablish her identity and how she sees herself, particularly in terms of her body. And I was curious about, from a research perspective, what some of the useful tools in researching this have been throughout all the different stages of this journey that you've been playing throughout the seasons, and how you've kind of looked to those details to really play her and be going through this journey on an emotional side that we're seeing right now.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, but also in a helpful way, my husband has gone through this. His mother passed away from breast cancer, but also his two cousins had the BRCA gene. And so they both actually, within a few years of each other, because they had that knowledge, they were able to detect. Both of them wound up getting breast cancer within a year of each other, sisters. And they actually got the surgery and came out of it and were stronger from it because they had that information. And so I think that's a really beautiful reason that we do this show. We're able to give people the information of like, hey, if you have the BRCA gene, these are ways that you can be getting information and things that you should talk to your doctors about and things like that. And so for this part of Jane's story, we had a doctor that was on set with me when we were doing the montage at the beginning, post-surgery. So he was able to kind of tell me like, all right, if you're a couple weeks out, this is how much pain you would be in, and this is how high you would be able to lift your arm, and this is the way that you kind of do these exercises to get better. And so, I was really happy that we were able to kind of show that part of the journey, because initially we were showing her just like right before she goes to work, and so we didn't have initially the whole montage of her recovery, and I'm really happy that they put that in because it made it so much more emotional. And so the other thing that I love about the story, though, is kind of what our writer and showrunner Wendy says is like, once your physical scars heal, how do you heal your emotional scars? So Jane's dealing with a lot of things. She just ended a relationship that was super meaningful. Now she's kind of moving into this space where she's kind of like a boss, and she's supposed to be on her game all the time, but she doesn't feel like herself, and she doesn't feel at home in her body. And what is that like? So I'm enjoying the fact that there is the juxtaposition of having to step into this place that you've always wanted to be, and to step into this professional boss lady, but also be struggling with how you feel about yourself and the insecurities that come with that. So I'm excited for people to see that aspect, because I don't think that we really talk about that. Like, I feel like as women with your friends, you're always talking about how uncomfortable you feel in your own body and like how you feel on certain days. Like, me and the girls are always like, man, I'm bloated today, and like, no one talks about feeling, especially on TV. It's like you don't really often see women just like doing the everyday complaining while also having to maintain professionalism and be, moving through their space. So I'm happy that there is a little bit of that this season for multiple characters, like Meghann said.
Yeah. And Aisha, one of the things I wanted to ask you about in terms of your character and the way that you approach your performance is part of what resonates so strongly about the character of Kat is that she's someone who sticks so strongly to her convictions, like even when it is against her own self-interest, as we've seen a lot this season through the fact that she's no longer at Scarlet and, turning down a job as well because it doesn't feel like the right fit, even with the financial situation that she's in. And I was interested in the way that lends itself to the way that you sit with the scripts and figure out what her choices and reactions to things are going to be, knowing that this is such a strong part of the core of her personality.
Yeah, I mean, I think even from the pilot, we saw that Kat has this really strong sense of justice and like what is right, and this need to kind of fix things all of the time, and sometimes is very, very misguided. But I actually really enjoy seeing her make mistakes and fail sometimes, because no matter what, she always gets back up again. And I think that's just as inspiring as watching someone thrive and be on the up and up, you know. But yeah, I don't know. I think just in terms of like how I think about it, I just think about, you know, her bravery, and kind of, it's really how I wish I could be. People often tell me that they're inspired by Kat and that they wish they could be as confident as she is. And I'm like, oh no, me too. You know, so I just try to think about, you know, the person I'm striving to be, and you know, try to infuse a little bit of that into the story. And, you know, and she's actually made me feel more brave too. Just this person that doesn't exist that I'm friends with. I don't know.
And Meghann, I know that in the past, one of the moments in Sutton's journey that you've talked about being really meaningful and really important was the point at which she started stepping up and really advocating for herself in the workplace. And, you know, when she was like, I need perks to be able to do my job, and this is what I need, and if not, I'm going to walk, which was a really powerful moment to watch. And I was curious kind of what you took away and what you learned personally from the journey of just playing that in the show, and how that's taught you to have more of a voice and advocate for yourself, either personally or professionally since that.
Oh man. Yeah, I mean, now that you're saying that, I'm like, that's one of my favorite moments in the show, because that moment actually did inspire me to like send some emails to some people and like let some people in my life know that a few things were not working for me. And I really don't think, you know, I really do credit that moment and Sutton's journey for that like, what inspired me to kind of do that was her. And Katie, one of my favorite stories is like Katie said that one of her friends essentially like verbatim went into her office and like gave pretty much the same speech and was succeeded in getting what it was that she was asking for at the time. And I was like so inspired by that. I thought that was so cool. But yeah, I really have like taken a lot of her journey to heart, and it definitely has affected the way that I see myself in the workplace and the way that I communicate, for sure. I mean, I still have a long way to go, but but yeah, I remember like a couple of very specific conversations that I initiated as a direct result of having shot that scene and feeling like, I'm doing this on TV, why can't I do it in real life? So, yeah.
And Melora, I wanted to talk to you about the character of Jacqueline and the type of boss that she is, which I think is one of the common threads that people discuss. And I'd actually forgotten this until I was talking to a friend yesterday about the show, in which I got really emotional when I watched the beginning of the season, because I'd just come out of a toxic work environment myself, and even just seeing her being so kind and advocating for her staff kind of really hit me at an emotional core level, having had the opposite experience just prior, and made me appreciate workplaces in a different way. And I know that when you first took on the role, that you actually had a very in-depth conversation with Sarah Watson, the creator, to kind of understand where that journey was going to go. So it was something that you knew. So I was curious about, for you, kind of what the importance was of knowing what that arc of the character was going to be, that was going to be her managerial leadership style, but also how you kind of took a step back and thought about what her journey professionally would have been in terms of a backstory, and the types of women that she would have had in leadership positions above her that would have led to her taking this so conscientiously and really understanding the responsibility and the weight that she carries in the workplace in all of her interactions.
So anyway, just a great question. That's a great question. And for me, I had just come off of Transparent, which is an amazing show for so many reasons, incredible entertainment. But the thing that was so wonderful for me about Transparent was that it was literally changing the world. It was educating people that trans people are people. And it was showing that through a family dynamic, which everybody can relate to. So I thought to myself, you know, the next thing I do, I want it to be meaningful. I want it to be important. I want it to be putting good into the world, not just entertainment. Not that just entertainment is not worth something, because it is. It's worth a lot. So it's not that I have judgment about that. But just for me, in my heart, in my soul, where I was in my own personal development, that was something that was extremely important to me. So yes, I got on the phone with Sarah and we talked really in depth about this because I was very taken with this idea that we don't see women of power on television very often who are also balancing the balls of life, who are in marriages or in relationships that are, challenging, of course, but are, successful, that have workplace environments that are successful, that have, and I felt that women need to see women like that. That's extremely important. I was very taken with how much integrity Jacqueline has, and I really, it's like what I most liked about it is that I felt like that's who I am, and that's who all the people around me are. I have lots and lots of powerful women friends who are, in their 50s, who are, balancing families, relationships, friendships, careers, hobbies, and they're doing it with so much grace for the most part. And, when you get to this part in your life, you've gone through so much, you've experienced so much, you have this wealth of experience that you're bringing with you. And I personally didn't see an example of that on television as a young woman. As I said, I've been in this business for a very, very long time. And I didn't see pictures of what it looked like to be a woman of the world, a woman who's successful, who's kind, who's being led by her own sense of her own moral compass. And yet I was surrounded by that. I saw that all the time in real life. So I was really excited that this was what Sarah was saying was her vision for the show. And I was saying, and her vision in particular for Jacqueline. And it's so heartening to me when people come up to me and say, oh my God, I just love Jacqueline so much because I want a boss like her, or I want to be a boss like her. And I mean, there are very young women that say that to me who are like 13, 14, 16, 20, I want to be her, or I want her as my boss. It's like, yes, yes, yes. And another part of your question was something about, I think you said something about mentors or her being a mentor. I don't know, or maybe I heard it that way. But I guess for me, I also feel that it's has been sort of historically a very difficult thing. And when you read Sheryl Sandberg's book about Lean In, one of the best things about that book is she talks about how women don't ask for mentors. They don't know how to go in and say, hey, can you lead the way? Can I ask you a question about this? Like, have you ever been in a situation like this? Because they don't, whereas men, you see men are like groomed to do that. And they're constantly going to their senior employers or their bosses or someone that they just respect who has, is in their business and saying, I'm wondering about this. And you don't see women doing that very much. We're not really groomed to do that. We're much more, I think there's sort of always a background echo that there's a competition. And there's a kind of unhealthy picture of how women deal with other women. So I felt as the, kind of the mentor, the leader of the Scarlet universe, that I really wanted to show a picture of someone who was safe enough, challenging, yes, but so intelligent, so warm, so much heart, and so much experience that the young women in the office and the young men would feel safe enough to come to her and say, I'm having a challenge. I'm not sure about what to do here. I think that's just extremely powerful and really an important message. So the answer is yes, that was highly important to me.
Well, one of the other important messages that I wanted to ask you about in terms of your characters, Katie, Aisha, and Meghann, is in terms of playing women who really own their sexuality and who, even when they're in relationships, they're never actually defined by that relationship and they still make choices that serve them best. Even though it is a partnership, they still look to themselves and they never lose their own identity within these relationships. And so I was curious about, for all three of you, the importance in getting to play that and represent that. And then also the space that's created in terms of the environment on set when you're actually filming some of those more intimate and sexualized scenes as well, and what they do to make that a really safe environment for all of you to step into.
It's a great question.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's great to portray relationships and sexuality and work aspirations in the way that we do. I feel very lucky that in my personal life, I'm in a position where I'm in a really beautiful, loving relationship, but with somebody who supports my dreams and wants me to be individual and wants me to have my own things going. And I think that our industry kind of lends itself to that anyways, because you're like always away, or you're always like, you always have the space to cultivate a love for yourself and moments for yourself. But I think that it's a really beautiful thing to show, especially for women, that you can be a boss and you can have a successful relationship and you can have all those things and they can all work together. And then in terms of doing sexual scenes, they implemented this year. It was the first time that we had done it, where we had an intimacy coordinator on set who basically came in and made sure that we consented with one another, that we gave people permission to, you can touch me here, and kind of gave people the go ahead when doing those scenes. And it just kind of made you feel very safe. And thankfully, personally, and I know with the other girls, with people that they've had to be intimate with, I've been blessed to do scenes with actors who are incredibly respectful and loving and kind and have always made me feel safe. And our crew also lends itself to that sort of environment as well. So I'm very thankful we have a very safe environment on The Bold Type.
And then I wanted to just kind of ask each of you what you feel that you've really learned about your craft as an actor through getting to work on the show and through getting to play your character now over these last few seasons, maybe starting with you, Melora.
Gosh, I mean, I think, that's sort of an ongoing thing. Everything, every scene you ever do, every moment you ever play is always a lesson in just sort of dropping into a moment. As far as, I mean, I don't know that I would say, like, I guess for me, the expansion into my craft would be that I, directed an episode of the season. It was my first time doing episodic directing. So I think that I've directed other things, but they've been very independent things. So for me, I guess I always say that, I love acting, I love dancing, I love singing. Those are my three passions. But I think really at the very top of that is I love collaborating. It's my very favorite thing that I do in all of those departments. So directing was the most collaborative thing I've ever done. And especially on an episode of a TV show I've been acting on for 4 years with people that I love and that love me, and people that I have really amazing relationships with. It was really extraordinary, really an extraordinary experience, really, really super, super, super joyful. And just start to finish. I loved every minute of it. So.
How about for you, Meghann?
Well, this is my first series regular. So I've learned everything. But I think, the fact that the set is an environment where, the things that I've learned are like, I love comedy. And sometimes I feel like I have an idea, and when I communicate that idea, sometimes other people think it's a good idea and they take it into consideration. And the fact that we have a set that supports, but the fact that we have a set that supports those kinds of discoveries and allows us the freedom to find those things as young actresses. I mean, Katie and Aisha have worked more than I have in TV and stuff, but I think that that's so huge. It's so amazing that for my first series regular, it's a set that works like that, because I recognize that it could have been a different kind of set, which you learn something from everything that you do. But I think for me, like this, I couldn't imagine a better sort of environment to just kind of like test things out, feel super comfortable. It feels like walking onto set is like walking into my living room. You know, I feel super safe and supported and valued in the workplace, and all of those things I think really foster and nurture my personal growth as an artist. So I feel really so lucky for that.
And what about for you, Aisha?
I mean, I would really just echo a lot of what Meghann said. I think like being on set in general has always been my favorite place to be. I always felt like it kind of feels like being in a circus, and I always wanted to run away as a kid, so here I am. Yeah, I don't know. This set in particular, they always really encouraged us to use our voices to contribute beyond just like saying the lines, you know. We were always really encouraged to bring our own ideas in, and sometimes they work and sometimes they don't, but like it's a very encouraging environment where egos are kind of just left at the door and everyone's there to just do something that feels really fun. And I mean, I think like honestly for me, the most valuable thing that I've learned has been just in terms of like intimacy and relationships, and how that works in my real life. Coming into the show when we were doing the pilot, I was very closed off and like kind of not really in a position where I was willing to let people in. And Katie forced her way in, and then Meghann was like, "I'm coming too." and I think our relationship has really like evolved over the years to become this really beautiful thing that's taught me a lot. And having someone like Melora on set who's so experienced and wonderful to teach us things as well has been beautiful. So I think it's actually had this like playing these empowered characters is really I think I can speak for all of us in saying that it like has empowered us in the real world too, and hopefully for people watching.
And what about for you, Katie?
I feel like I'm boring because I just want to echo what everybody's saying. Yeah, I mean, I had been a series regular on something before, on Faking It, and it was such a beautiful experience in such a different way, but it wasn't where I was so new to the industry. So it was like, I don't think that I like valued my own ideas, and I don't think that I was confident in my own ideas or felt that I was experienced enough to say, hey, I think this, and for that to be received. Although now looking back, it totally would have. I just wasn't confident enough. And so moving into the bold type, I think I still kind of came into it in a daze, in a little bit of like, I had imposter syndrome with myself where I was like, do I deserve to be here? Like, do I have good ideas? I don't know. And the more that we all worked together and collaborated, and, you know, watching Melora speak up for things that she believed in, and to see that be received, and to watch Aisha and Meghann do it, you know, it was kind of like, I was like, they're doing it. I think I can do it. And so, you know, we just kind of cultivated this energy on set where it is, like Melora and Aisha and Meghann said, it is so collaborative and people are receptive to our ideas. And I think we tell stories about women needing to feel heard and seen, and I think that we practice what we preach on set, and we are listened to and we are valued, and it's just a really beautiful family that we've cultivated, and we're all very open and honest with one another. So it teaches me a lot about my craft in terms of expanding and wanting to turn it up for the people that I'm acting with, because I'm so inspired by them, but also teaches me to have an open heart and an open mind in terms of just having a relationship with all these people.
We have a lot of women that are running the show too, and that's really exciting for the show because we have a lot of female voices that are at the top, you know, starting Joanna Coles and Wendy Straker-Hauser and Sandrine de la Gross, is that how you say her name?
I know.
It's very French.
Anyways,
Very French.
and we just have so, and that's not to say we don't have incredible men around us too. We do, but I do think it's kind of what Katie said about, we are really, it is a little bit like the wild, wild west right now for women, really learning how to have a voice in a way that is easy, effortless, not forced, not defensive, not squashed, but also, just sort of that is a very interesting, I think, play that happens on our set where everyone's trying to find that all the time. And luckily everyone's very sensitive and very intelligent, and I think cares. I think we all really, really care.
Well, I was already selfishly hoping that we'd get several more seasons just from an audience perspective, but now I also just really hope that you guys get to keep living and working in this really amazing work environment. And thank you so much for taking time to talk today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. I just want to make one more little shout out, because I know we're doing this for SAG. I just want to say to all the actors out there that I just want you all to know that I'm thinking about you. I was raised by 2 actors. I've been doing this since I was 6 years old. I have been through the highs, the lows, the no money, the no jobs, the, success. And I just want you all to know that this is a challenging time for actors. It really is. But I want to ease your fears. I want to tell you that we are going to work this out. We're surrounded by tons and tons of creative people. I'm friends with one of the heads, the president of the Producers Guild of America. She's telling me that they're working incredibly closely with SAG. We're going to figure this out. So you guys just hang tight, do what you got to do to stay afloat, but just know we're going to be okay.
Thank you for sharing that. Appreciate it.
Yeah.